Council will come to order. Pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you, councilors. Okay, and clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson. Here. Councilor Kamel. Here. Councilor Condon. Councilor Crowe. Here. Councilor Matheson. Here. Councilor Murphy. Here. Councilor O'Malley. Here. Councilor Sika. Councilor Spatafora. Councilor Winslow.
He's here, yeah.
Council President DiMaria.
Here. Thank you. And under the provisions of the open meeting law, and for those of you in attendance, please be advised that MATV will be recording this evening along with resident John Mayara. There will be audio and video recordings. Thank you. First order of business.
School Committee member Tara Beardsley will appear before the council to talk about the Little Free Libraries project.
Welcome, Mrs. Beardsley. Thank you for attending tonight.
Thanks for having me. So, well, This is the first time I've come up to this. On this side, I just want to thank you, President DiMaria and the fellow city councilors for allowing me to come and speak. My name is Tara Beardsley, like she said, and I'm the Ward 5 School Committee representative. I embarked on bringing Little Free Libraries, you can see them over there, to all the K-8 buildings because of the cutting of K-8 librarians 4 years ago now. We now have a librarian 1 day a week in K-8 buildings, but access to books is not as good as it should be for students. So a little background, Little Free Libraries, you've probably seen them. I think there's quite a few in Malden now. It's a nonprofit that inspires love of reading, sparks creativity, and has book exchange. A huge thing, why does book access matter? One of the most successful ways to improve reading achievement is to increase their access to books, especially at home. But according to U.S. Department of Education, up to 61% of low-income families do not have any books, 0 books in their houses. So Little Free Libraries play an essential role by providing 24/7 access to books, encouraging a love of reading in areas where books are scarce or don't have full librarians or can't get to the public library. So I was talking about why does this, what value does this bring to our students? So building, decorating, installing the libraries is a rewarding service project that we've already done at the Linden, and it's shown to be a successful way to improve reading achievement and by increasing their access to books. So the first one we put up was in the Linden, right in front of the Linden STEAM Academy. We received an impact grant for free, and the students painted the library, and the city installed it for us. So, and the BB School now has one. The Northeast Metro Voc is now made one for them, and they're donated it, and it's being painted. And then Malden Reads, Ashley Freeman, who couldn't make it tonight, and her creative design and engineering class at Malden High. They did a project to build the Little Free Libraries for our K-8s, since most of them went to the K-8 schools. And her students designed and built 5 Little Free Libraries, 3 of which are on display over there. They did a pretty amazing job. One of them has a light inside it that when you open it, the light goes on.
Really?
One has a counter, like if you every time it's opened, it counts. One has a stand. I mean, they did a really fabulous job. And they actually toured us around, and they toured some students. And so now I'm gonna bring those 2, there's 2 more that are still being sort of finished. But what impressed me the most was the Malden High School students and their teacher. They're unbelievable in the makerspace. And they made these from scratch, designed them, put them together, worked on them, and then gave them to us, which was pretty awesome. And I just wanted to thank the public facilities, Eric Rubin, who donated his time and equipment. And so far, we've probably given out like 100 to 150 books at the Linden, changed hands. And yeah, Malden Reads has been a huge part of this as well. I just wanted to thank them. They've been giving us books. We have books. If anyone wants to donate books, I'm sure you have plenty of books at home. I've been going through my stash of books through my cleaning out every day. And so I've been exchanging books, and it's been great. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the floor in case any of our counselors want to commend you or comment. Do I see any lights on the floor? Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. No, I thank you for picking up the gauntlet again and moving this forward. I know, over the past few years, we've had a few spring up in various places. Different individuals have started it, but I think, having the schools get involved will really push it out, need out there. It will also bring in books for many of the parents whose children have outgrown the books currently at their home. So it's just a great way to move books throughout our community, keep our children reading, and just keep their minds motivated and flowing into, different worlds that they might never, see unless they see it through their eyes in a book. So thank you so much for doing this, Tara. Really, it's great.
Thank you so much, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for doing this. I first saw a little free library in the Rose Kennedy Greenway in Boston about 10 years ago. And I thought it was really remarkable, and I said, this is a good idea, which means Malden is definitely going to be embracing this soon, because we're always out ahead of things. And your leadership on this is very, very valuable, because as you know, the young population has their face in their phones and on video games and social media, which that's okay. It's great. It brings information to all of us and connects us. But good old-fashioned tactile books is really, really valuable. So thank you.
Completely agree. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Through the chair, I do want to ask you, if someone wanted to donate their books, how would they do that?
So I think right now with the Linden, you can just put them into the box, but I think Jody Zalk said that Malden Reads would accept donations, but I'm trying to think where would be a good, I haven't thought that through, but that's a really good question. So you can leave them at the Linden or at the schools, and we can get to them. But honestly, they've been really good. Here, yeah? We could put we were thinking of, I've been talking to Karen Hayes. They're going to try to put a little free library over
Adorable.
here for
That's
the seniors.
great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's,
And
so, but it's been cute because the kids, like I saw a little kid the other day bringing back a book, and I said, you don't have to bring it back, but it's cute. He's like, no, I already read it, and I give it back so someone else can read it.
That's
So it's
great.
really encouraging kids to, I said, you don't have to, there's no checkout, but.
That's cute. That's great. Councilor Anderson.
Madam President, my thanks to you as well, Tara, for what you're doing. I think this whole idea of reading books is so enlightening and educational. People can take travels through their books and discover a whole new world by reading. Down at Suffolk Manor, my senior citizen complex, they exchange books down there. They were in touch with me recently and were wondering how they could plug into a source of exchanging books. They've got a small library down there, but they've read those books and want to recycle them. So I'll be passing your name on to them.
Definitely.
And you might want to think that the other housing authority complexes may very well have the same interest in wanting to have access to books like that. And
So that's how we got the Linden site, because of the housing community. And so I think
Yes.
anyone who wants to apply to their impact grants, they would definitely get it. So I can talk to whoever it is.
Yes,
But it's great, they send you a building, they send you everything, a whole box of books and a startup kit. All you have to do is paint it.
yes. So
great. That's a great idea.
congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. Tara, thank you very much for kind of pushing this forward. I know that we aren't quite there when it comes to the librarians, but I know that you've been pushing, and I do appreciate that. I know you have support here, and I'm sure on the rest of the council too. So hopefully this year or next year, we can really kind of, or next year, we can get there, get librarians back into our schools. But this is a great first step towards that direction. I was lucky enough to work with some members of Malden Arts to build a little free library, which has been in my yard waiting to be painted.
All right.
But next spring, there will be a little free library on Main Street, and I look forward to joining this growing population of little free libraries in our community. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. And from the chair, thank you so much for coming, school committee member Tara Beardsley.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate your hard
you.
work. Thank you. Okay, do we have any public comment? Was there any sign-in sheet or anything? Here comes Lisa. No? Okay. So we had no public comment, no one signed up for that. I'm going to just take a minute to recognize our Malden Civic Youth Engagement Group that's been here every single meeting for the last month and a half. So thank you so much for being here. Okay. Next, order of business.
Approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 13th, 2018, and minutes of the meeting of November 20th, 2018.
Thank you. On Councilor Murphy's motion to approve the minutes, all those in favor? Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next order of business.
Appointments and elections, mayor's appointment, Juan K. Kwan, 1 Main Street, Unit 204, Malden, Mass., as a member of the Human Rights and Fair Housing Commission, term to expire November 16th, 2019. Confirmation required.
Okay, on Councilor Crow's motion to refer, excuse me, councilors. Thank you. On Councilor Crow's motion to refer that appointment to our Personnel and Appointments Committee, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That appointment is referred. Next order of business.
Petitions, and I'm going to group them. Christmas tree sales, Jay's Pizza and Ice Cream, 167 Center Street, Malden. Amusement machines, Provo Corp. DBA Patrick Franny's, 3640 Lebanon Street, Malden, 3 machines. Amusement machines, Loyal Order of the Moose, 910 562 Broadway, Malden, 2 machines, renewal. Amusement machines, Flaming Grill and Buffet, 52 Broadway, Malden, 2 machines, renewal. Amusement machines, Dockside, 229 Center Street, Malden, 8 machines, renewal. Extended hours, Supreme Food Mart, 1018 Eastern Ave, 24/7, renewal. The extended hours, Planet Fitness, I believe that's on there in error, that was already approved. The extended hours for Dunkin' Donuts at 980 Eastern Ave, Malden, 7 days, 4 a.m. to 12 a.m., renewal.
The next one's new. Why don't you skip over that one?
Which one?
The next one is a new one. Just continue with the renewals. How's
Okay.
that?
Class 2 Malden Auto Brokers, Inc., 189 Eastern Ave, Malden, 35 cars, renewal. Class 2 Malden Auto Brokers, 225 Eastern Ave, Malden, 20 cars, renewal. Class 2 Rio Auto Group Corp. DBA Dealer 1 Motors, 77 Broadway, Malden, 48 cars, renewal. Class 2 99 Towing and Truck, 469 Broadway, Malden, 7 cars, renewal. Class 2 Hub Starters and Alternators, Inc., 172 Broadway, Malden, 4 cars, renewal. Class 2 Louis Foreign Car Garage, Inc., 191 Salem Street, Malden, 3 cars, renewal. River Auto Sales, Class 2, 77 Eastern Ave, Malden, 25 cars, renewal. Class 2 Malden Auto Sales, 147 Ferry Street, Malden, 25 cars, renewal. Class 2 Auto Tech 2, Inc., 1236 Eastern Ave, Malden, 5 cars, renewal. Class 2 AGM Auto Sales, Inc., 135 Eastern Ave, Malden, 15 cars, renewal. Class 2 Bay State Auto Gallery, LLC, 616 Broadway, Malden, 30 cars, renewal. Class 2 Richard Motor Cars, Inc., 672 Broadway, Malden, 80 cars renewal. Class 2 Greenleaf Auto Enterprises, Inc., 28 Broadway, Malden, 55 cars renewal. Class 2 Greenleaf Auto Sales 2, Inc., 69 Newland Street, Malden, 37 cars renewal. Class 2 Prestige Motors of Malden, 600 Broadway, Malden, 67 cars renewal. Class 2 Maxima Auto Sales Corp., 105 Broadway, Malden, 31 cars renewal. Class 2 John Service, 200 Beach Street, Malden, 15 cars renewal. Class 2 Smart Buy USA, 497 Broadway, Malden, 27 cars renewal. Class 3 Malden Broadway Auto Body, 590 Broadway, Malden, renewal. It doesn't say when.
Motion to refer those en masse to the License Committee, please.
Thank you on Councilor Anderson's motion to refer those renewals of petitions to license. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those petitions will be referred.
And there is one new livery, Abakudar Haji, 11 Stevens Street in Malden, 1 car new.
Refer to License Committee.
Thank you. On Councilor Anderson's motion to refer that petition to license, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That petition is referred. Next order of business. Let's skip over that. Okay, we're gonna. Because Councilor Winslow is at another meeting for a very short time, we're going to pass over number 9 motion orders and resolutions, which he is the sponsor, and we're going to continue on to the next one. Yeah, his. So now we're going to do Councilor Matheson's.
Yes. Order that the City of Malden no longer accept the provisions of MGL Chapter 40 and terminate further application of its market rate housing development zone effective January 1st, 2019.
Thank you, and Councilor Matheson for the paper.
Thank you, Chair. So I imagine that this is ripe for some debate, so I'm going to be asking to move this to Rules and Ordinance Committee, but I think a lot of members of the public aren't familiar with what an HDIP zone is, so I'll give a little bit of background. While searching for the funds to pay for a new city hall, Malden uncovered a statute that the state allows municipalities to attract developers of market rate housing. And this is Chapter 40V, and it allows you to draw an HD zone, a housing development zone, and within that zone, you're allowed to discount future taxes. So what Malden did when it was looking for a creative funding mechanism for its new city hall site, we were able to accelerate the future taxes that would be due from the new developer and realize those funds at an earlier time today, so that we could use them as cash at closing to afford our new city hall site. Now that that's been done, I don't think that there is a stomach for giving tax discounts to market rate apartment developments here in the city of Malden, so I don't think there's any future need for an HD zone. In fact, Malden is a magnet for apartment developers, and to the extent that we were able to get those developers, they should be paying full taxes. So for that reason, I think it's time, now that we've afforded our new city hall site through this creative funding mechanism, that we wind up the HD zone and no longer apply it to any future sites. And with that, I'm willing to make a motion to refer to Rules and Ordinance Committee.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. Before we do that, I do have a light on the floor. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Councilor Matheson for bringing this to the floor. I know a while ago we discussed about potentially eliminating this provision. I do have a question, though. Is there a CDIP, like is there commercial development incentive programs? Is there other provisions in state law that we could potentially swap this with, where we're eliminating the housing development, but we're encouraging commercial development?
So certainly you can answer, but I think some of these questions we could keep to our ordinance committee, should this get voted into our ordinance committee, unless the sponsor would like to answer.
No, I can only speak to this paper. You know, I can fully appreciate where you're coming from, Counselor, and to the extent that those statutes are available, I welcome you to find them, and I would join you and help you in that endeavor.
Absolutely, and the only reason I'm mentioning it is because in the discussions that I've had preparing for this particular paper, one of the things that comes up is the only parcel left under the HDIP program is the Malden Center train station and the parking lot. And the thought process is some type of development incentive program will help us get a new train station. You know, the Malden Center is falling apart. However we do that, whether it's ideally a commercial development incentive program, I do think that that's kind of the last parcel and the goal of this master plan that was drafted by the City Council prior to me being here was to see that entire area kind of revamped. So I do support sending this to ordinance and relooking at this, and hopefully we can do a commercial one instead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. On Councilor Matheson's motion, I see no further lights on. Councilor Matheson's motion to refer this matter to Rules and Ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the matter has been referred. Now we can go back to his. Thank you.
Paper 50518, resolve that it is the sense of the Malden City Council that representatives of the Mayor's Office and the Water Department appear before the City Council at its second full City Council meeting in January 2019 to report on the status of lead pipe replacement in 2018, the estimated number of lead service lines remaining to be replaced, and to discuss the city's long-term strategy to expedite elimination of this risk to the health of many Malden residents.
Thank you, and I'll refer to the sponsor, Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, thank you for your patience. I had to be in the Community Preservation Committee meeting. Yeah, I put this paper forward. Let's see, people can see me here. I put the paper forward. I think everybody did get the report from the Mayor's Office on this past year's success in addressing the services. And I think it shows some great success from the council in terms of requiring services to be replaced, and we're on good track, but there's still several thousand that do need to be replaced. And you know, we've had the benefit of sort of the wind at our back with the strong real estate market. I just would like to discuss and hear from the Mayor's Office of you know, what our plans are in case the real estate market slows up. And what are the opportunities to actually kind of expedite? Because if we stayed at the rate of 150 a year, which is mandated by the state, it would take 20 years to do this. And I think there's some definitely that seems like a long time to continue to put at risk our young people. So I think it's one of the roles of this council to you know, make sure we as a city are fulfilling this important commitment with all due diligence, and that we don't fall back into the situation where we kind of lose track of how quickly the services are doing, and when the economy goes south, that we don't really have a strategy on how to keep up with our commitments. So that's really, I want to make sure that this important public safety issue is fully addressed, and that we not only keep track of our successes, but we are focused on advancing this with all due speed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. I have some lights on the floor. Councilor Spatafora.
Thank you, Madam President. This is just more of a question for Council Winslow. When you're talking about the service in the housing market, are you referring to keeping up with from the street to the house, which is the owner's domain? Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about the city's objective with replacing the pipes in the street?
Well, I mean, under the consent order, I mean, we only get credit when both the city side service and the owner's service is corrected. So unless that happens in every instance, we don't get credit. So that's one of the things, the updated consent order. So, you know, there had been, you know, last year, 3,000 services that had not been addressed. So, at the pace of the consent order, that's a 20-year 20 years worth of work. And so, I'm talking about both, is essentially to make sure we're on track to not only make that 150, but exceed that, and maybe even more expeditiously. But at least we know we're looking forward, and we also have know that we have committed the resources to do it, irregardless of whether we kind of have the wind at the back from a lot of property transactions. So, thank you.
Yeah, I would just, and I support this, and I think it's good to get an update. I know we talked various ways about some funding mechanisms, whether it be low-income parts of the city. I just, the only thing that, and believe me, I think, other than us forcing an ordinance to change the lead pipe at a certain point, which I think could be a challenge, I wish the state delegate would do something like the fire alarms, where it mandates that the lead pipe has to be done at the state level, because I think the only other way we can do it is literally by passing a local ordinance and say you have within 36 months change that pipe. Because the only time I've run into it personally is exactly what you said, is when there's a transaction of a purchase and a sale, and they're forced to do that. Or somebody decides finally they're ready to change that pipe because maybe they have young kids. But I've also heard the other side where people are well in their, they're getting ready to retire and they don't want to change it. So I think for me, either we get some funding mechanism, but I think it really is a little bit of a, it's a little bit of a challenge, because if we pass that ordinance, we're probably going to get a lot of people, the ones who are happy with us, the ones who are not unhappy with us. So I think it's good to get an update. And I think the MRA was also working on some plans, I think, for funding. I think we should add that, if you don't mind, to the paper head, maybe have because I know we were using the money through the MRA. That's why I think we have to invite her.
Right, yeah, I know, I had worked up in Gloucester, and they probably had substantially less lead pipes, but they did use some CDBG money to create kind of a revolving fund. So, I mean, I think that's the type of thing of, knowing that, like I say, I want to get a further update and make sure we're not only focusing on, keeping track and hoping that we continue to get services replaced, but we also have strategies in case the market slows up and we don't have that 150 kind of automatically piling up. And I mean, I'd also like to think of being more ambitious than 150 a year. I mean, 20 years just seems very long to me. So I think we should be looking and pursuing and asking our water department to see what could be done to speed it up, and maybe then that it is falling on that to see having what is the cost as we come up. We all are also wrapping up kind of the $55 million we've spent on road projects. We're going to be talking about the next kind of wave of funding for road projects, and we should coordinate that, and we have to make sure that we have the funding to deal with the pipes and repaving the road this time. So I think it's just trying to be more forward-thinking, and that's the spirit of it. I just think that's an important role of this council, to make sure we're forward-thinking in terms of being responsible to our commitments to the health of our citizens and the financial soundness of our community, and balance that out. So that's really what I'm not here to put the mayor in the hot seat, but to really get that forward-thinking discussion for the council, so we're not taken by surprise, and that that's really what it is, that we're forward-thinking in that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So I welcome that.
Yep, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafor. I have a few more lights. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. I think this is great. I do want to commend the city for replacing 226 lead service lines this year, when we only needed to do 150. As Councilor Winslow stated, a lot of that is also driven from the fact that we have had a lot of turnover in our real estate, and the City Council, to its credit, passed in 2016, I think, 17, an ordinance requiring the replacement of a service line whenever real estate is changed hands. So that has had quite an impact, and I do want to applaud the council and the city for doing that. One of the things that we can do, because talk is great, but action is better. One of the things that I think we might want to add to this resolve is that maybe it's the sense of the City Council that we send a communication to the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, the MWRA, that they start some type of state revolving loan fund similar to the SRF sewer line loans that have loan forgiveness. If they were to take the water rates that all of the city and towns that are part of the MWRA pay to them and develop a fund which cities like Malden could borrow from to replace our water mains and replace our lead service lines, this would ideally really bump up the replacement schedule of these lead service lines that, as you have said, is impacting public health. So I do support this. I would move to amend that we add, and that it is further resolved, that it is the sense of the City Council that the MWRA develop a state revolving loan fund with loan forgiveness for the replacement of water mains and lead service lines in the Commonwealth. I appreciate a second. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I have a couple more lights. Councilor Kamel.
Great, thank you. So we've got a couple of numbers. We know we have 3,000 left, and we have the same man in 150 a year. But you know, what's the rest of the story? I'm just curious about. We've done water testing. We've offered water testing. Do we have data on that, even in the aggregate level? What are the levels we're finding? That I think we should make that part of the discussion, just to kind of check in on that and see where we are, and if we have that data that we can discuss, or is it just sent back to the homeowner? I would imagine we would track at least at a anonymized aggregate level. And secondly, has anyone sort of explored in the medium term, in the short term, any filtration systems, or any are there any grants or subsidies to help families get filtration systems if they are at risk? Because 20 years. If we do take 20 years, what do we do in the meantime? So, what? No, I guess I don't want to technically make that an amendment, but I would want to put that out there, and hopefully, if this does pass, please note those facts too.
Discussions.
If we have those.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, and thank you to the sponsor. Clearly, this is a very, very important issue, not only to our community, but on the state and national level as well. And I know that we lag behind a lot of our community peers in this issue. I just had a couple questions based on the discussion that I heard. One was with the most recent amendment. Since we're inviting the subject matter experts and the department heads to come speak with us, perhaps that motion for amendment is better made when we have all the representatives here and we understand things a little bit better. Because I don't know if the MWRA is the right entity to be asking for the revolving fund. Not that it's a bad idea. I respect all of my colleagues and all of their ideas, but it might be better to bring that up next week when we have everyone here with us, or 2 weeks, whenever it's coming back. My question was, I heard Councilor Winslow mention a 20-year schedule, but it was my understanding that we were under a 10-year consent order from the Mass DEP to get all of the lead out in Malden, and we're already 2 years into that, so that would lead me to believe that we have 8 years of replacements left. But if that schedule is looking different, I would love to hear more about that, and why I heard Councilor Winslow say 20 years. Do you have some information?
I can double check and reread the consent order, but my understanding is that the consent order requires 150 service replacements a year.
Yep.
And then we have 3,000 services that, that was, sometime a year and a half ago. So we're a little less, but 30 divided by 150 is 20 years. So there is a commitment of how many we have to replace, and I think that basically, we'll be under that obligation until we've done it, so I don't know if there's another firm deadline, but.
Yeah, I'm just surprised because I was under the impression it was a 10-year consent order, and I know we violated the prior consent order from the Mass DEP, and that's why we're under a new one. 20 years is far too long. I would like to see it accelerated so that we can get this done as soon as possible. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Matheson. So what I heard is that the amendment, I'm going to just circle right back to Councilor O'Malley. Are you
I just wanted to.
retracting your amendment until the guests come?
No, I was wondering if maybe, no, not necessarily. I just wanted to provide more feedback or more information about the amendment. Yen Lip, the city engineer, and I did actually go to the MWRA. I believe it was in Chelsea or East Boston. Sometimes when you're in those neighborhoods, you don't know exactly where you are. And it's all like built up. And I asked specifically where and whether or not the MWRA would be interested or open to something like this, because they are the ones that provide the sewer SRF funds. So I don't think it's necessarily the wrong place, but I'm willing to wait until the new year to see what to do. So I just wanted to provide the feedback that Fred Lasky from the MWRA is aware of it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Madam President. I have not much more to add. I think this is just getting as much information as we possibly can, and I do think we need to figure out, we did add in with community development block grant funds a loan process, but has anybody availed themselves with that? We've done that before in other areas, and nobody has taken the loans. Even if there's 0% finances, they just can't afford to pay them back. So I do think, as long with all these other things, has that worked? Has the, when they've changed hands with new owners, how effective has that been? And is there's anything else that we can be doing like that that's going to move that along? Because I don't believe that too many people have availed themselves from the community development block grant loan program. But how do we tweak that to make people want to do that?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Crowe. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. I think this is as I talk in other meetings, I think it's very important for us to go back and look at what projects we put on the books and monitor them as they move forward. And when they're finished, go back and kind of do a post-mortem on them. So I think this is very timely because although we talk about the housing market, from my understanding, it took a while to actually get the process in place with all of the real estate agents to actually have that happen. So I'm not sure we've actually seen the full force of our initiative or our ordinance that we put in place. I think it took a while for it to actually get up and running. So it'd be interesting to even hear from the real estate community as to how they feel that's going to impact it over the next 12 to 24 months, because I think that's another linchpin of this. So I think, bringing this back to the floor will be very important for us to look at all of these different aspects and bring them together to say, yes, we're moving forward in 2019 and 2020 with a solid plan, a good direction that's going to help us get to the end goal that we want to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Spatafora, second time.
Yeah, I'm gonna pile on some stuff for this meeting. I think it would be good to know, from my perspective, the amount of outstanding properties by type that have not changed. And my rationale for that is, I think as much as we wish and desire and try to help people to do this, it's probably going to take a little bit of force. So I think if we could look at the outstanding properties left, I think the first thing would be we should force all commercial properties to immediately, or with what I mean immediately, give them a pretty small window to change. And I would then probably go down the list to 2 or 3, multifamilies, non-owner occupied, and work our way down finally till we get to the pile where it is, 2 singles and 2s that are owner occupied. And then hopefully we, try to figure out a way to do that. That's going to be a burden financially for a lot of people. But if we could have the data broken down by, commercial properties, not addresses, just totals, and then, singles and twos and, because you're probably gonna find some churches, places of worship that haven't changed their water lines either. So I think if we could start with some of the bigger commercial type of industrial places that haven't changed, and then we get together as a council at the beginning of next year and say, okay, let's figure out a window, give them 12, 14 months, you have to be, comply with this ordinance, and then start chipping away the list, because whether it's 10 or 20 years, it's a long time. And I don't think most people are gonna volunteer to get a 0% interest loan, even if there's no interest to pay it back. But I think we probably have to look at forcing some of these property owners to start changing effective in the near future. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you all. Thank you, Councilor Spatafor, and thank you all. Definitely was warranted a resolve, so thank you, Councilor Winslow, for that. I think where we've kind of drilled down is that the clerk will coordinate a meeting with the mayor's office and the water department and the MRA, or we wait until, I don't know where that went. I think that was somewhat tabled until our meeting, and that second full council meeting, I think, is January 22nd. So on council, yeah. We start the 8th, and then the next week is committee. We could do the 8th.
Well, I will not be present on the 8th, so that's one reason. So,
There was
but I
a
also wanted to
method.
give enough time to get the information, so we have a lot of questions. So,
Oh, we can certainly do it.
I mean, the 18th. I mean, that's
That's our last meeting for the year. We can do that if you want. Yeah. Well, what?
I'm curious to get the information before the meeting.
I'm going to look to the sponsor.
we had enough time. I don't know if Maria Louise could speak. I just want to make sure we had enough time to actually have the information prepared.
The data.
The data. I mean, I don't want to have it rushed, like I say. And then the other reason is that come the first of the year, we will actually have the complete 2019 information. So I think that was another thing. So, and and then there's often, I mean, the first council meeting of the year, I didn't think that was good either, but I'm not going to be here. So that's one of the reasons. But I don't know if the Maria Louise from the mayor's office would have thoughts about so.
I think through the chair, I think January 22nd allows some time for all this data that we're all requesting, all valid information. I mean, unless I hear, a pushback from any of the councilors, I think we'll move forward with January 22nd for your resolve. So on Councilor Winslow's motion to adopt that resolve, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Next order of business.
Paper 50718, order that the City of Malden accept the provisions of MGL Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 17, 17C, 17C and a half, and 17D relative to increasing veterans' tax abatements annually.
Okay, thank you. And since the sponsor of the paper is not here this evening, I am going to revert to Councilor Kamel for the paper.
Great, thank you. So this is pertaining to veterans' tax abatements. There's a variety of them from a few $100 to a few $1,000s that have been pretty much the same for several decades. There's the BRAVE Act, which allows for increasing those not to exceed the cost of living. And so we would have to accept those provisions, and we're asking for this to be sent to the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Thank you. On Councilor Kamel's motion to refer this matter to Finance, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that will be referred. Next order of business.
Paper 50818, order that the sum of $90,604.30 be and the same is hereby appropriated for the TNC surcharge municipal distribution account.
Thank you. And again, since the sponsor of the paper is not here this evening, I am going to revert to Councilor Kamel for the paper.
Great. Thank you very much. So just read a summary, a shortened version. I'm going to expand upon it. The full order that the sum of $90,604.30 be and the same is hereby appropriated from the TNC Surcharge Municipal Distribution Account. Installation of granite curb, new AADA-AAB compliant concrete wheelchair ramps and sidewalks, traffic signals, pedestrian signs, and push-button assembly, and crosswalk pavement markings at the following locations: intersection of Main Street and Winter Street, intersection of Main Street and Forest Street, intersection of Main Street and Kenmore Road. The source of these funds, the source of this fund are a 10-cent surcharge and each Lyft and Uber ride, which I need to go back and reread this again just to make sure. Last year there were 906,403 rides originating in Malden, and as a result of those 10-cent surcharges on each of those, there's $90,000 to put towards transportation infrastructure, and so that is what this is about. So I would like to refer this to Finance, please.
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Kamel's motion to refer this matter to Finance. All those in favor? Any opposed? Matter is referred. Next order of business.
Paper 50918, be it hereby ordained that Chapter 12 of the revised ordinance of 1991 as amended be further amended relative to allowing multifamily dwellings only up to 7 stories.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy for the paper.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, I'd like to refer this paper to a joint planning board and ordinance meeting. Although we don't have the sponsors listed here, I did put this paper in, but have had a number of councilors ask me to co-sponsor it with me, including Councilor Spatafora, Councilor Matheson, Councilor Seeker, and Councilor O'Malley. If you remember last year, just about this time, I had put in a paper to limit the height of residential buildings in central business to 6 stories. We almost passed it. We were short by 1 vote right at the end of the year, and it just is time to bring this back. Having listened to some of the concerns that folks had last year, I've revamped it a little bit, and I've left the planning board in charge as the special permit granting authority for 3 to 6 stories, and then the city council will be the special permit granting authority for any building that's 7 stories. One of the reasons that we went to 7 stories is the fact that there was some concern last year that the Exchange Street side of City Hall was actually 7 stories, and the JAG apartment building would not have been built if we had the 6-story limit. So I'd like to get your support in referring this to a joint planning board and ordinance hearing for hopefully in January. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some lights on the floor. First off, Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam President. As Councilor Murphy stated, previously the papers that we were discussing would have made a number of buildings in the square pre-existing non-conforming because of the fact that 6 stories on Pleasant Street is 7 stories on Exchange Street. We had also been discussing capping the heights of floors, and that was also part of the discussion. So I do appreciate this paper. I think this gets to what the residents want. It's the essence of what we're trying to do here, and I do appreciate Councilor Murphy, you're putting this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Kamel.
Just briefly, I wanted to thank Councilor Murphy for bringing this back. We do hear quite a bit from our residents for us to address what's going on in terms of having the right amount of development and growth here, and I just want to say that I plan to support this paper, and I'm glad to see it back here, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Spatafora.
Yeah, I echo that too. I applaud Councilor Murphy for bringing this paper back. It was something that I put on the docket last year, and unfortunately we were not successful. Hopefully this time we will be, and I think Councilor Kamel said it best, is, you know, the residents have been very vocal in terms of where they want to see Malden going, and I think we're going in the right direction. I know that many members of the council now have started to use the word "see" in terms of bringing more commercial space here, which I think is great. And this paper will probably have 0 effect on that. But it just gives us, I think, another control in terms of what the council and the planning board can approve. and the height restrictions. So again, I applaud Councilor Murphy for taking something that was a dead paper and bringing it forward. So great job, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafor. Councilor O'Malley, second time.
I just have one other question. Do we know when this is being scheduled, the public hearing?
I've spoken, may I?
Certainly.
I've spoken with Michelle Ramiro, and she's looking at January.
January, okay, great. Because the only reason I ask is I'd also like at the same meeting to talk about how we can maybe amend some of our commercial height limits, particularly around hotels. Right now it's a 4-story cap for hotels. And I think that there's been a lot of discussion about that. I don't want to go too off topic, but I just wanted to make sure I had that in time to have it at the same meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further lights on Councilor Murphy's motion to refer this matter to Rules and Ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter has been referred. Next order of business.
Claims, paper 51018, claim Alessandra Suarez and Alexandre Vieira, 99 Boylston Street, Malden, Mass.
Refer to Finance.
Thank you. On Councilor Kamel's motion to refer this matter to Finance, all those in favor? Any opposed? The matter is referred. Next order of business.
Committee reports, paper 51118. Committee report, finance paper number 45218, ordered that $1,048,000 is appropriated to pay costs of design and construction of sewer system improvements.
Thank you. On Councilor Kamel's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Committee report is received. Councilor Kamel for the committee.
Great, thank you. So this pertains to the full amount. The full amount is the $1,048,000, but this is going to be under a loan assistance program, which is a 45% grant and a 55% zero interest loan. This was debated quite a bit, discussed quite a bit in Finance Committee with the city engineer. And what this is going to help us do is start to identify issues in our sewage where extra water is kind of coming into our system. We can see it at a few points where we're, water coming in and getting billed, and what we're expecting to get out, and we're getting out much more. So this is going to help us monitor at several different points and begin that process. So I would ask that we pass this. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Matheson. Give me a second. There you go.
Yep, thank you, Chair, and I certainly don't want to, I know that you're sitting in for Councilor Condon, representing the Finance Committee today. Are we going to reline any sewers with this money? Have any locations been determined, if you know? Or if anyone else knows who's on the committee?
Yeah, I'm going to defer to Councilor Murphy.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
The majority of the money is going to be used to identify where the water is coming in. It's
exploratory.
It's basically exploratory. There are some areas down in the Linden area specifically that they believe they've already addressed, and some of the money might be able to be used to, well, it can be used to start to fix some of those areas. But this is a different issue than actually relining the sleeves, which we have, relining the sewer pipes with sleeves, which we have done in the past. Mm-hmm. This is more, he's talking about joints, in just areas of, pure influx of water.
And sometimes just rogue water coming into the system, and also cracks in the pipes where it gets infiltrated. So.
And will this benefit all wards? Is there any discussion on that? Can you leave the microphones open, Council President?
I actually shut it off because of feedback. She didn't shut it off on me. I was trying to cut down on the feedback.
I think it benefits us from a central financial standpoint. I think we all share that burden that we're actually paying right now, and I think from our understanding, and Councilor Murphy can expand upon this, but this $1 million, we're very confident that it brings us back an additional, more than that amount in financial benefit from solving this issue that we're getting charged for. Okay. We charge out a certain amount, but we're getting charged beyond what we're charging, so the city absorbs the rest of that.
Okay.
Correct. So it basically is, it's a win for all citizens who get a water bill.
Yeah.
regardless of where the issue is, the fact that we cut down on the amount of excess water that's going through the system is a benefit to every ratepayer in the city,
Okay,
okay?
great, thank you both.
Thank you, both counselors. I'm going to have a light on the floor. Counselor Anderson.
Thank you. For the benefit of the folks at home, let me just elaborate on what it is that we're talking about here. This may be confusing to people at home. The Mass Water Resource Authority charges the city for the amount of gallons that we buy from them in clean water. That's one side of the bill. The other side of the bill is they charge us for every gallon of water that goes through our sewerage system. They charge us for that. So as we have leaking infrastructure in our sewage system, we're taking in groundwater and other leaks into the system that I think our engineer was telling us that it was about 3/8 of our bill is being overcharged, so that the amount of water that I think it was like 8 million gallons of water that we buy, but there was another 3 million gallons of water that was going out of the system that we were paying for. So we need to stop that infiltration of extra water into the sewer system that we're paying for, and that bill is being passed on to all the ratepayers. So this is not a small situation. This is money that we are wasting by having excess water going into the sewer system that we're being charged for. I hope that explains it.
Does that help?
Thank you.
Councilor Kamel, hold on. There you go. Thank you, Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, and I want to thank Councilor Anderson for reminding us to make sure we explain this for the benefit of the folks who weren't there or the benefit of the folks who were at home, might not have a full understanding of the infrastructure. And to remind everybody, the sewer system is separate from the storm water system. Those are two separate systems. And some of that storm water, which should just go out and be untreated, ends up in the sewer system. So that's part of what is being infiltrated there. And so there may be, that's the rogue water. Thank you.
Okay, no further lights. And Councilor Kamel, if you could just repeat the percentage of grant money that we don't have to, it's free money, and our zero loan. I just want to make sure all the residents heard, Councilor. Yeah, hold on. There you go, Councilor.
Sorry about that. So it is 45% grant and a 55% zero interest loan. So that 55% would be of the $1,048,000, somewhere just above $550,000. And thank you. And it was unanimous to refer to
Yes,
our
it
finance,
was.
which is an important point to make. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so on Councilor Kamel's motion to adopt the order, the clerk will call the roll. Wait a minute, you got your light on?
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel?
Yes.
Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President DiMaria?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, the order is adopted. Thank you unanimously. Next order of business.
Committee report, Finance Paper 46118, order that the sum of $3,091.67 be and the same is hereby transferred from Revenue Reserve to Board of Health operating costs.
Do we want to group them together, or do we want to take them separately?
Yeah, why don't we do them all together?
We can do them all,
Sure.
because they're
Sure.
fairly related.
Yep.
Committee report, Finance Paper 46218, ordered that the sum of $595 be and the same is hereby transferred from Revenue Reserve to Board of Health auto mileage. Committee report, Finance Paper 46318, ordered that the sum of $1,803 be and the same is hereby transferred from Revenue Reserve to Board of Health vaccine program. Committee report, Finance Paper 46418, that the sum of $5,000 be and the same is hereby transferred from Revenue Reserve to the Board of Health Professional Services. And that is it for those.
Okay, thank you. And on Councilor Kamel's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Any opposed? the committee report is received. Councilor Kamel for the committee.
Great, thank you. So all of these transfers, they, the total, by the way, is $10,489.67. These are all coming from the revenue reserve. These are being reallocated as requested by Chris Webb, Director of Board of Health. As part of the fiscal year 2019 budget, the city added the position of recovery coach, and unfortunately, due to an oversight, we did not add any additional operating funds to the fiscal year budget to support the position. The first two transfer requests will support this position for the remainder of the fiscal year. And then the additional amount, some of the additional amounts there are to retain the services of a consultant to perform grant writing on our behalf. That should bring us into the city more than the $5,000 that we will be spending on that professional service. This is somebody who's been writing these grants, who's very familiar with them, has been awarded them previously, and knows what they're doing. So I request, and I apologize that I don't have the final vote for those, but
I think
yeah,
they
those were
all
unanimous. Those
yeah?
were all unanimous coming out of the Finance Committee, and so I requested that we pass them. Thank you.
Thank you, but I think we're going to take individual votes just because they're
Yes.
different amounts. So on Councilor Kamel's motion to adopt paper number 512-18, adopt the order, clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel?
Yes.
Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley?
Okay.
Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President Di Maria?
Yes.
That passes.
Okay, thank you. And on paper 513-18, on Councilor Kamel's motion to adopt the order, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel? Yes. Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President Di Maria?
Yes. Okay, and that passes unanimously. And then on paper 514-18, Councilor, did I miss one?
No.
Councilor Kamel's motion to adopt that. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel? Yes. Councilor Crowe? Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President Di Maria?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. And paper 515-18, Councilor Kamel's motion to adopt the order. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Anderson? Yes. Councilor Kamel? Yes. Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Matheson? Yes. Councilor Murphy? Yes. Councilor Spatafora? Yes. Councilor Winslow? Yes. Council President Di Maria?
Yes. And again, that passes unanimously. Thank you, councilors. Next order of business.
Committee report, public property, paper 206-18, petition AT&T to construct and maintain telecommunication wires, wireless attachments, and appurtenances to be attached to existing National Grid utility pole located on Dutton Street and to install conduit as amended.
So I have to, mea culpa here, I am the chair. These ended up on the agenda before I properly coordinated with the representative from AT&T. He wants to plan to be here if we have questions on this, but he is actually appearing in 2 other cities tonight. I told him that I was open to asking these to be rescheduled if discussion is requested by the council. So I just want to...
Make a motion to table?
Well, so what I'm asking is, if there's opposition, so if that's... I would like to leave it open for a moment to see if anybody has something to ask about these, and if so, then I'll make a motion to table.
Thank you. We do have a light. Councilor Winslow.
Now, were the counselors of the wards where these proposed able to be present at the Public Properties Committee?
So the two councils affected were Councilor Sika and Councilor Matheson. They were not able to attend. We did inform them. So that is a valid question. So
Okay, and
they were
then
not there.
are these following the ordinance that we had passed
Oh, yeah.
early in the year, and they're
Yeah,
in
so
full
they came
compliance, so-
originally to us, just to give a little history on, and I'm talking about actually all four.
Yep.
These had come. These came to the. We just had a technical question. Oh, yeah, so let me just ask, one at a time. So these had come in June. They did not at the time, I think it was June, did not at the time meet. They voluntarily said, hey, let us take these back and please reschedule, we'll get in touch with them and reschedule us and go through engineer. They came back, they met all the requirements, and I think the majority of what we discussed were the color of the boxes.
Okay, all right. I'd be supportive of actually proceeding. I mean, if that committee's fine, but I
Okay.
defer to Councilor Matheson if.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Councilor Matheson.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank Councilor Kamel. He's a freshman councilor, and he's the chairman of this committee. He did reach out and invite the councilors of the wards to be present. The question that Councilor Spatafora had was, when these were referred to committee in the initial stage, was a public hearing held at the time? That is a requirement before these are granted. We need to make sure that the public is aware so they have an opportunity to come and attend, speak in favor, speak in opposition. I haven't heard any opposition to these. I personally don't oppose them. This is the rollout of 5G, and I see it as smart revenue. We got together as a council, we drafted an ordinance that I think is better than any ordinance you're going to find at any other city in town, and it brings in revenue from outside of our city to help us as a community. It brings it in from vendors like AT&T and Verizon, and the list goes on and on. So I'm certainly in favor of the new technology, just want to make sure that we're following all the steps of public hearing and whatnot.
So it was mine, and I just want to check with the clerk that, to follow back, when these were originally referred, was that, I believe that was a public hearing when they were introduced and referred.
When they were originally, right, what happens is I get the papers from AT&T, I submit them to Nelson Miller, the building inspector, then he tells me if they're okay, then we put them on the docket. From the docket was referred to public property, which is a open forum as well. So anybody could have come.
But was it,
I
when
don't think
originally?
Don't know.
I don't think it was a public hearing. Councilor Spatafora.
No, that's a valid, it was.
That's
I
what me and
believe-
Council Matheson were talking, I mean,
I
I
thought it
know
was
it's
a public hearing when they first were referred. I thought that we had that, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna ask to table these.
It would be the
Let's
safest
double check.
approach, because in a subsequent hearing, we can have the representatives if they want to be here.
Absolutely.
We
And
can have
we'll
a
make that the
public
public
hearing
hearing.
and protect the
Yeah.
public's interests.
So we'll double, it just takes a minute, and apologies, I thought that was the case. We'll double check that, and we'll bring it back
It's
next
no
week.
reflection on you, Councilor Kamel.
Yeah, it's no, I just think from a technicality
You're right.
standpoint, you have to open the public meeting up and then close the public meeting. So just even though the meetings are public, it's a different process, and I think just for the
Sure.
better, which I know you're defaulting, that's why me and Council Matheson were just
We want to make sure, we absolutely want to.
Yeah, and the reason
dot
why
the i's,
it's
cross
important
the
to me, and I know Council Anderson has always been advocates of this, sometimes and often, we have troubles with whether it be Comcast or Verizon or National Grid for some other reasons. And the only time we seem to get anything fixed is when they need something. So I think it's imperative that we, as a council, all know, because sometimes, even though it's not in our ward, we might be trying to get something done in our ward, but for whatever reason, the utilities just put it in the back burner. So I think it's just good for everybody. Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, all councilors. And on Councilor Kamel's motion to table all four of the papers, 516-18, 517-18, 5118, 519-18. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, those four are tabled. Thank you. I have a light on the floor. Councilor Crowe?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Actually, I would like to make a motion to suspend docket rules for the purposes of receiving the Personnel and Appointments Committee report. Tonight, we met with a few people, but one in particular is Catherine Belgian.
Counselor, I think we need to vote on that first.
Well, for the reasons why, so.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll do a roll call vote for suspension of docket rules. Clerk? No, we're going to, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Counselor Anderson? Yes. Counselor Kamel? Yes. Counselor Crowe?
Yes.
Counselor Matheson? Yes. Counselor Murphy? Yes. Counselor Spatafora?
Yes.
Counselor Winslow? Yes. Council President Di Maria?
Yes. Okay, thank you. And Counselor Crowe, right back to you.
So now that was to suspend docket rules now to receive the committee report.
Okay. On Counselor Crow's motion to receive the committee report, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Counselor Crowe for the committee.
Thank you very much, councilors. This evening we had our appointments and personnel meeting. We met with a number of people, but Catherine Belgian, I'm gonna get it right. We met with her this evening, and she's being appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they have a meeting tomorrow night. Actually, they have quite an important meeting. It has to do with the American Legion property. So we wanted to suspend docket rules just so we can make sure that we can seat her properly. So she's gone to a couple of the meetings already, but that she could fully participate in the meeting. But so let me tell you just a little bit about her. She's lived in Malden for the past 2 years, and she went to Northeastern University and studied urban planning and design and obtained an architectural degree. She's worked in New York City for 2 years before attending graduate school, and attended Rice University and studied in Paris and Texas and obtained her master's in architectural design. She is very, very enthusiastic with getting involved more in the community in the city, and she brings the architectural and building credentials with her to the Board of Appeals. So I make a motion that we approve her appointment.
Okay, thank you. I know Councilor Murphy was in the Appointments Committee along with myself, Councilor Matheson. Catherine is a terrific resident. We're going to say new resident. And she's stepping right up to the plate. So Councilor Crow's motion, seconded by Councilor Matheson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, congratulations, Catherine. Yeah, there was a little urgency to that. Okay. Is the docket clear?
That's it? That's clear.
Yes, Councilor Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We just went through raving about our new appointee to the Board of Appeals, and she happens to be sitting here in the audience. Why don't we ask her to stand for acknowledgement by the City Council? Yes, and Ward 7 resident. I don't let that slide. Congratulations to you. Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, so the docket is clear. Would anyone like personal privilege? Thank you. We'll start to my left. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'll be saying this week and next week also. Santa Claus is coming to his Pine Banks office, his Malden office. That's the one time a year the North Pole actually comes to Malden. And he is expected to be at Pine Banks with his reindeers and sleigh on Saturday, December 15th and Sunday, December 16th from 3 to 6 p.m. There will be hot chocolate and cookies served by Ward 5 residents, and we will be working hand in hand with all of the staff of Andrew Walsh and all the staff of Pine Banks Park. So the Pine Banks Park folks have done a great time Yeah, okay, I'm tongue-tied here. They have for years, done a wonderful job hosting Santa, and Ward 5 is just happy to help and participate with them over the last few years. So we hope to see all the good little girls and boys on the 15th and 16th of December at Pine Banks Park to meet Santa and get their pictures taken, which is a free picture, by the way, taken by our own resident Paul Hammersley, who does a wonderful job and puts them all up on Facebook so the parents can access copies of the photos of their children. So thank you to everyone, and I'll be repeating this next week too. Hopefully not as tongue-tied as I was tonight. So
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor Kamel.
So, a twofer, holiday related. This is the last meeting before Hanukkah starts on Sunday, and I want to wish a happy Hanukkah to all of our residents who celebrate. Secondly, and here's one I will be repeating again, on December 16th at 3 o'clock at 630 Salem, for the residents of 630 Salem, we'll be having a holiday party for you. So come on down. We'll be getting flyers with all of that information out to all of the residents, and but just wanted to get it off. They're watching tonight. We're going to come by, and we're going to have a couple of fun activities, and more details will come. So we'll leave you in suspense.
Ooh. Thank you, Councilor Kamel. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam President. Santa Claus is going to be very busy this month. While Santa Claus may be coming to Pine Banks, Santa Claus will also be going through Ward 7, and coming this Sunday, December 2nd, Santa Claus will be traversing through the streets of Ward 7 Precinct 1. So for those folks who vote at the Ferryway School, we'll be going through those streets, bringing cheer and bringing a delight to all the children, and no matter how old they are, that want to get an opportunity to sit and chat with Santa Claus. We will be out again with Santa Claus the following week, and I believe that's going to be on the 8th of December. We will go through Ward 7 Precinct 2. So this is the season to enjoy all of this, and it comes on the heels of what I thought was a very successful parade of holiday tradition that we just had on this last Saturday. So this is the time of year to enjoy, and we try to do our best to make that happen throughout the city and throughout Ward 7 in particular. Also, I want to mention that on this Saturday, from 5 to 7 p.m., I've been asked to be the Master of Ceremonies of a Filipino presentation, a celebration that's going to take place right here, celebrating the cultural contributions of people of Filipino descent. That'll be taking place right here in the Senior Center. And so you're invited to be here from 5 to 7. There'll be a discussion about the history and culture and how different people celebrate Christmas throughout the world. So we invite you all to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. And from the chair, I just hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and look forward to the further season of celebration. I do want to give a special shout out to Catherine Manning Hall, who year after year plans this wonderful holiday parade for us. And I just thought it was so well attended, and the smiles were just abundant. And for Catherine Manning Hall, we thank you, and for all the people that help with the parade. And on Councilor Matheson's motion to adjourn, all those in favor? Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.